Investigators are still seeking a motive in last week's deadly shooting in Washington, D.C. that left one National Guard member dead and another injured. The suspect is an Afghan asylum seeker who actually worked with U.S. forces in Afghanistan. He was granted asylum in April under the Trump administration. And ABC's This Week, on ABC's This Week, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem blamed his admission into this country on inadequate vetting under the Biden administration.
All the information that was gathered on that vetting process was gathered under the Biden administration. His asylum claim application started under the Biden administration. That information was provided by them, and the responsibility lies with them.
Which is an interesting take, right, since he was granted asylum earlier this year. So it's one of the, I think there's so much backlash, unfortunately, against the entire Afghan community, right? It's not just this one individual who clearly had some disturbances going on in his life, but he worked with the U.S. military in Afghanistan for a decade. I mean, he was there. His life is at risk in Afghanistan for sure.
Yeah, and had he not gotten out of Afghanistan, he would have been killed
by the Taliban.
Because he was actually working against them. So he works with the United States. He works with American authorities there, military authorities there, and in a capacity as an assister, a person who's assisting from that country. When we leave Afghanistan, they can't leave him behind.
Right.
They bring him here. They grant him asylum. They do some level of vetting, and he just goes nuts. I mean, who knows what happened, because he's there in Washington, D.C. He doesn't even live there. He drove halfway across the country. Right. I think he's from the West Coast.
That'd be entire country.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And one of the victims is a 20-year-old National Guards member. I mean, this woman is just...
she joined right after high school, I know. Yeah, yeah. So of course, people are wondering, was he radicalized? I mean, I think at some level we can say he was, but at least there was some kind of emotional break going on. There's more from ABC's Stephen Portnoy.
Ramanullah Lakanwal is his name, and he served under the CIA for many years in Afghanistan as part of an elite counterterrorism unit called the Zero Unit, and he was trusted by the CIA. In 2021, he and his family were brought to the United States as part of Operation Allies Welcome. And while there's been a lot of conversation about vetting, an accusation by the Trump administration that the Biden administration didn't do enough to vet people who were brought to this country, when it comes to this specific individual, well, this was someone who was trusted by the U.S. government and worked for the U.S. government and would have been a priority case. Now, he was brought to the country in 2021, granted asylum by the Trump administration in April of this year, and there would have been repeated rounds of vetting all through that process.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can know or discover about a person, and vetting was clearly done by both administrations, by the Democrats, by the Republicans. Biden did his part, Trump did his part, and we don't know what's happened to this man, why he became... We keep using the word radicalized, or what happened to him and why he...
Well, maybe it was just a psychotic break more than a radicalization, right? He had a family here in the United States with him, too. And, it's just a tragedy all the way around.
And in terms of whether or not he was radicalized, here's more from ABC's Stephen Portnoy.
So the question is, what happened in this case? Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem told us yesterday, quote, "We believe he could have been radicalized in his home community and in his home state." That would be Bellingham, Washington, where he lived with his wife and 5 children. Sources tell ABC News that Lakanwal was unemployed, that his work permit had expired, and that recently he'd been deeply impacted by the death of one of his Afghan commanders. Now, that's a new element this morning. Sources say that he recently had been isolated, increasingly distant from his family and friends, and depressed. Authorities have been searching his social media, his laptops, cell phones, other devices to see if they can find evidence that would support a charge that Lakanwal was motivated by a terrorist ideology, either contacts with or an expression of support for a terrorist organization or movement. They have yet to publicly disclose they found any. Doesn't mean they haven't. Doesn't mean they have. But we don't know. For now, the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., Judge Jeanine Pirro, has said that the charges will include first-degree murder and assault and weapons counts under D.C. law. The suspect remains hospitalized, which means that he has not yet been formally charged and will not be until he's well enough.
So we have a texter who asks, and I think it's a valid question, why did he lose his work permit and then wasn't able to provide for his family, right? I mean, because when you come here on asylum, you should be able to work, right? That's one of the things that you can do when you're here as an asylum seeker or an asylum grantee.
Yeah, and it may be something you're required to do in some respects too. That if you're
Right.
here long enough, you either need to be in work or in school or something like that. You know, the fallout from this, we're still hearing more and more, is going to be. I mean, what the Trump administration has already done is saying, okay, we're going to double down on what he calls people from third world countries and start deporting people. I mean, you would expect that there have been a lot of Afghan nationals that would have been brought into this country.
There are a lot, yeah.
And, you know, if we start deporting them, their lives are going to be in danger.
So President Trump did speak with reporters on Air Force One on Sunday and put an immediate stop to asylum claims for Afghan nationals.
All they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want them.
And that I can completely understand that mindset. Here's the problem. When we're in Afghanistan, we need help from inside. We need people that can assist us. And there are going to be other countries where we're going to be present, where U.S. forces are going to be present, where they're going to need some assistance from inside. And if you're there, let's say, I won't even mention countries. Let's say that you're in some country and U.S. forces are using you to help them and assist them,
Right.
work with CIA, and you're saying, what's in it for me? Well, we'll protect you
Right.
if things go south.
Right.
Well, wait a minute.
Things went south.
Things went south on this situation. You didn't protect, and now you're looking at deporting and getting rid of people who really have no place to go, no place safe to go.
Right. And that again, that's really one of the issues that we're talking about today. And, you know, you can have a member of any community that does bad things, right? It can be a member of a religious community. There can be former members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, people who are Catholic, people who are Irish. It doesn't matter, right? There you can have bad actors from any group, but that doesn't mean that you taint the entire group and say, none of you are welcome here. We don't want any of you.
Right, and he goes to Washington, D.C. He's got a firearm. He's accused of firing at two National Guard members, 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom and 24-year-old Andrew Wolf. Sarah Beckstrom, that Guard member, 20 years old, 20 years old. That just breaks my heart to think that, was killed. Andrew Wolf is injured, and the suspect himself, Alakanwal, is apparently injured because there was some notice in the last segment we heard that
Right.
he hadn't been charged yet because he's
in the
jail.
hospital.
Right. So he's not going anywhere, and he's going to be charged with first-degree murder. I don't know whether D.C. has the death penalty. The feds do, so if he's charged federally, they'll certainly do that, which I guess I just answered my own question. But, I mean, these are tremendously serious charges, and I can imagine that the Department of Justice is going to take this about as seriously as they can. Our administration has done the same thing, and they've indicated, whether it's happened yet or not, that they're sending 500 more troops to Washington, D.C., in addition to, I think, the 2,000 that are already there.
You know what's interesting about that is you already had a court say it's not legal to put these National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. And in fact, the young guardswoman who was killed, her former boyfriend said she thought it was, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she thought it was dumb that she was being sent there, that there wasn't really a purpose for her to be going to D.C.
Yeah, and now we're going to send another 500 there. Who knows where else they're going to go. But, I mean, and just the far-reaching effects of this from all, not just from Afghani refugees
Right.
seeking asylum, but people coming in here seeking asylum from other countries. We're going to be looking very dimly on that, our administration is, for the next who knows how long.
Well, I mean, I think it's hyperbole to say, quote, all they do is go around killing each other. That's not true, right? They're trying to protect their lives and their families because they put their lives on the line to help Americans when we were in their country.
Yeah, well, the fallout for something like this is sometimes knee-jerk. I know that the administration's got to do something. They have to say something so that the American public thinks something's going on. Whether or not and how he's ultimately charged remains to be seen. But in terms of him individually, this will be a first-degree murder charge. I'm sure they'll pursue the death penalty. But what it does in the far-reaching realm of our immigration and immigrants here, and especially asylum seekers, oh boy, we've opened up some floodgates here.